Opportunities for arts education abound in Western New York. In this series of programs, we welcome arts leaders to the studio to talk about how they're preparing the next generation of arts performers and appreciators. Today with us we have Maryellen Giese. She's the director of the Hochstein Youth Singers at the Hochstein School of Music and Dance. And Amy Cochrane, who directs the Genesee Valley Children's Choir. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for coming in. It's just great that you could be here. You know, singing in a choir is one of the greatest things anybody can do in their entire lives, and it's so good that you're starting them early.
We know.
Yes.
We totally know that.
That's good. So how do students find the Genesee Valley Children's Choir and become involved?
You can find the Genesee Valley Children's Choir by going to gbsings.com.
Okay.
And you can message us there, and I'll get back to you with email. Also, if you have friends that are in the choir, they'll tell you where and when to go. And so the website,
word of mouth and
word of mouth.
Friends. That's good. Now,
Kids liking kids.
Kids liking kids. Kids liking to sing. Kids that can't get enough music.
That's the idea.
Yes.
That's what we are part of. Yes.
And now, do they have to know to sing, how to sing before they join you, or do you teach them as they join? Or?
There is no audition.
No audition.
And we have 3 groups. We have, we start at 1st grade through 4th, and then we're 5th through 12th. But we are only trebles. We don't have, once their voices change, it's a very bittersweet time.
We have that too. But our guys like stay and sing
in their
head
falsetto?
voice. Yeah. Because you know what? They can only do it now, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Once they learn to sing in their falsetto, they just keep going. I know, it's great.
That's good. That's good.
It's great.
That's wonderful.
So I call them the angels and the devils are the young ones. And then the troublemakers are the 5th through 12th grade. And then I had, of course, those kids that just can't get enough and they want to be competitive. So it's not competitive to be in the group, but if you want to be in the ultimate troublemakers, you have to audition, and that's only 12 people.
12 people.
And they do some pretty serious stuff.
Now, is this a summer activity?
We match the school year.
Match
We
the school.
start the weekend of the first day of school, the weekend after the first day of school, going to the weekend before the last day of school.
All right. So Genesee Valley is basically Livingston County.
Livingston County, we have people from York, Dansville, Lima, and Geneseo, and Lakeville, Livonia area, mostly.
And are you housed at the university, or where do you rehearse?
We started at the Central Pres, our home. They helped us get an initial grant.
That would be the Central Presbyterian Church.
Central Presbyterian Church in Geneseo. And that's how we got started, however, 7 years ago. And then it grew.
Oh.
And we outgrew the choir room, and now we have moved to SUNY Geneseo. And that's become a really nice symbiotic relationship where if they are doing anything that requires a children's choir, we're there for them.
That works out very well for both.
It does. Yeah, it does.
And how many performances do you likely give in a year?
We give 2 major performances are at the end of each session, like the Christmas session, or the fall through Christmas, and then we'll do one the weekend before school ends, June 10th. At Central Presbyterian Church in Geneseo at 3 o'clock.
That's this year, but I mean, there would be a typical concert in the end of school year every year.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. And then whoever can get together, we love to get together. If we're over the summer, we usually sing at Geneseo Days or Nun Days, old-fashioned days, little things over the summer. So if we've been asked, we'll see who's around and get together. And
So do you sing all kinds of music, or what kind of music are your specialty?
our specialty, my favorite pieces of music, which is more along the classical lines, or if it's contemporary, also contemporary. We do a lot of new music, classical. If it's pop-oriented, it usually is more acoustic, like Tears in Heaven with like Eric Clapton, or At one point, they liked that cup song, and we found a 3-part a cappella arrangement
Did
of that.
too. Did you do it with the
Yes.
cups?
Yes, I mean, and movement and
They were
singing.
better at it than I was.
Well, I can, yeah. And same with the solfege. You know, you teach them the basics, and their brains are just. I didn't learn solfege when I grew up.
Yeah, I mean,
They can some of my older kids can outsight read me now.
yeah, wow, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
You should join the restauratorium.
Yeah, that's
Be able to sight read.
And so education is definitely a part of it then.
Yes, yes, yes. We have a great time with that, and yeah, we have little games. Yeah.
Gotta do it.
Fun, yeah, that's good. And so how about Hochstein Youth?
Well, I direct the Hochstein Youth Singers, and we practice every Saturday morning, and so you have to love music enough and love singing enough to want to have your parents, the parents have to buy in first, right? They have to love Hochstein, and they have to love the idea of having their child have more singing, because the kid probably sings at home all the time, right?
That's right.
And loves it. So we start with 5-year-olds with the Hochstein Little Singers, and then we go all the way through high school. Some of our students have stayed all the way straight through, which is wonderful. I start with the Hochstein Youth Singers at 4th grade.
Oh, wow.
So they come to me and they sing treble music all the time, same as your choir. And if they're really, really, really loving to stay and sing, they stay for an extra hour and sing in the Hochstein Singers from 6th grade to 12th grade. And we do up to 4 and maybe more parts. We sing advanced children's repertoire and rather easy children's repertoire too, beautifully. And treble beginning college-ish choir, you know, the stuff if it's appropriate enough. There's a lot of repertoire out there
There
now.
is.
All of a sudden,
I was telling Eric, I'm just having the most fun. I don't come from a choir director position. I was a vocalist. My mother was a choir director, but now that I've gotten into this, I just am now hook, line, and sinker, looking through repertoire.
doesn't
And,
end.
oh, it's just amazing.
It is
wonderful.
It is. I'm addicted to that sound.
Well, it is beautiful to have the audience. You see how their reaction to it is just sort of angelic.
So now, do they audition to get in the Hochstein Youth?
No, our students don't have to audition any time. Yeah, so we take people who just love to sing, and they become excellent singers and music readers and musicians and entertainers too. Part of singing is the drama and the expression.
It's not necessarily show choir, though, the way that people might
please.
think.
We do a few of these at the end.
But yours is classical choir also.
Yes, yes, yes. Like the little ones are singing Das Wandern by Schubert in English, 2 verses in English that I found that didn't have the leader, the original accompaniment, and so I took that text for the the little ones, and have an excellent pianist. I always want.
That's a very
that
important
is
part of
where,
collaborative.
yeah, that is where we
musician.
spend our money most, is really good musicians, because it's really important that they are with good musicians, and it just. So I really respect my pianists, ones that can play Das Wandern beautifully, that inspires them to walk around and think about hiking and their lives, and that's just it was really magical when you see them come alive through the magic of these composers, like Schubert or Mozart,
and be inspired and not even care that you're singing in some other language if
Right.
you happen to be. We do a
Yes.
lot of things in other languages, and they never question it. I went to say Hochstein.org. Hochstein.org.
Oh yeah, that's the website in case you're learning more. And that's
Yes.
right about that language and the whole ensemble experience is so much part of everyday life, and then the way a sports team is, but it's not athletic in that way. So what's the appeal to a young child to be part of a singing group? What would parents tell their child to expect?
I think they would expect to be able to stand in front of a group when they're finished. They would have more self-expression. They would have more confidence. They would not be intimidated talking, reading in front of the classroom at school. They would do a presentation perhaps at school that would involve music. They would, there would be a lot of parts of their lives that would be included in after you've had the practice of rehearsing, because it's mostly rehearsing, right? It's performing a little. We perform probably 5 times a year, and we go to Darien Lake and sing, and that festival competition, the only thing competitive we do all year, but it's for the fun, really, the camaraderie. You get to know a whole lot of students from other schools. We, Hochstein reaches out to the whole Rochester community and various other,
that is a big thing of it, in the Genesee Valley Children's Choir. The kids that you see at these at the other events, like music events, or even sports events, like swimming events.
They're comrades.
They know each other from choir, you know, and it makes this huge sense of belonging in the world and community.
Absolutely.
And so it just gives me chill bumps just to think about that.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's part of our mission. Yeah, the outreach to the community and the finding friends with like ideas, like. They just all have that love of singing. It's one way of learning. Yeah, it's one of that Howard Gardner ways of learning, and one of them is musical.
Yeah, that's true.
And some kids learn their times tables through music. And we all learned how to sing the alphabet, right?
Right, right.
And so what do you see in terms of building other learning strengths, Amy, for instance? Do you see that in your students?
Yes, well, the confidence in getting up and singing, and just their personal confidence. Their sense of, learning to work together is a huge thing. Ensemble, we do this Kadai exercise where everybody takes a clap around and then we try and sing a song, and if one person drops the ball, even if it's, not their part that they're singing, they can affect the people that are singing. So we learned that whole idea of you're responsible for the whole group and carrying the pulse and being a part of the energy. You can't fade out.
It's another kind of team.
Yeah, it's a team.
Another kind of team.
Yes, exactly.
It's a team sport. So now, do they go on to sing in the rest of their lives, Maryellen? Do you see that?
Let's hope so. I sing with you in the Rochester Oratorio Society
Right,
on
very
Monday
true.
nights. Yes, oh, for sure. I have students who go on and sing in college. We don't expect them to be music majors necessarily, but that's cool. But for sure, and we expect them to be, or hope that they will be good parents who sing to their children, and we hope that they will be continue singing throughout their whole lives in their church choir, in the shower.
In the shower, on a hike. So
yes, on a hike, driving on long drives.
Driving on long drives.
Yeah,
Right.
it's how you learn your repertoire, your family repertoire.
Yeah, I know that I started in church choir as a
you?
before my voice
didn't know
changed
that.
very long time ago, and now that's not only my avocation but my vocation, and I know it's that way for several people, my colleagues as well. So it can be a lifelong.
Well, and I'm sure that it's this way for my students. I know when I come home from the Rochester Oratorio Society rehearsals on Monday nights, and it's late, and I don't go right to sleep.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah,
and I
that's it.
imagine that it just engages, it excites us all in a different way. Not everybody in the world, just, we singers.
Oh, that's so exciting. So now, what is the future for this music? Are you getting new music created? Or, are you finding pieces all the time? What excites you about it the most?
I am finding music all the time. I keep digging and listening, and just recently did these Gwyneth Walker pieces with brass quintet, and then there's always a new twist to an old thing, like maybe the Vivaldi Gloria as it was originally written. Would be hugely fun. I mean, just my imagination goes wild when I think about the different pieces that we can possibly do.
There's pretty no end to the possibilities at this point. Lots of different styles. Your kids can sing folk songs, they can sing jazz, they can sing a classical repertoire, sort of re-engaged for the younger singers. It's just no end right now.
And singing with other ensembles is good as well. I mean, when we did a Lubeck piece for with some of the public music people with Boel, and they were so involved in that. We sang that in German with early music instruments and an organ, and to see those kids not think that that was something abnormal to do.
They don't have a prejudice against
No, there's no
something
prejudice
old.
against it. It's actually
they're interested
beautiful.
and
It's
ask
just,
questions
and
about
then for those, the instrumentalists that have gone to Eastman, to see kids be enthusiastic about something that they're passionate about is just a win-win situation.
Part of the music community
Yeah.
world. Yes.
And then I get more chill bumps.
Now, you both work with singers as adults, too. Do you find that they've come from children's choir backgrounds and that?
Well, we just found out that you do.
But, for instance, Sweden
I don't know that there are as many children's choirs when we were children as there are now. There's many in our Rochester community, so I would assume that it's that way, that there are more now than there have been before. There's such a thing as the American Choral Director Association, and we belong to that, and I go there every couple of years to their various conferences. The next conference is going to be in Rochester in 2020, yes, which is very unusual. And you just see your colleagues and you find out that there's way more children's choirs out there than you ever even knew about. Yeah, I'm sure there's some in Rochester that we don't even know about.
Well, there are some very famous international ones, like the Vienna Boys Choir or something. And is this strictly a U.S. phenomenon, or are you familiar with other groups outside?
I am familiar with other groups.
It's okay.
Some of the groups that I've been emulating, though, like in the more popular folk genre, the Waylon Jennings, the trio, a cappella trio music, and then that's not a far reach from doing a Barbara Strozzi piece for three voices, and those can go in the same program very easily.
Italian Baroque.
Yeah, and so things like the Anonymous Four, Waylon Jennings, Anonymous Four.
It's great to change up.
Yeah, and so I look at groups, there's like an Italian trio women's group. So I start following those groups when I'm looking for music.
Isn't YouTube incredible?
I know YouTube is
I wish it was always around in my
right.
entire career, because it has made our lives a lot easier than renting music from the Rundell Library.
right.
Now, do you refer your students to private teachers when they feel like
Absolutely, yeah. Hochstein doesn't start until 12 years old for private students. So if anyone is interested in coming to sing, they join a choir, join the Hochstein choir first, and then they start. I refer them on to, you should take voice lessons. And usually if students' parents have brought them to Hochstein, they are interested in finding something else. Let's learn theory. Let's take an instrument. Let's
That's important.
be part of my chorus at school too, because now these people become, I'm sure, the leaders in their
Right,
school
in their own
choirs.
schools. Right.
And everybody is looking for that, and that sort of collegial rapport is an important part of our mission. We're not here alone. We're here to help and to encourage singers everywhere.
And you actually teach private.
I have yet to join ACDA. That's on my list of things
that.
to do. I belong to NATS, which is the National Association of Teachers of Singing, because I'm a voice teacher first.
Yes.
And I got into directing choir because of my daughter, and I wanted her to be exposed to more literature, of a certain type that I was exposed to. And involving the early music.
More than you hear on the radio.
More than you hear on the radio, or even that they can actually supply it at the school. So instead of driving up to Rochester, how much it would cost me to drive up to Rochester to take her to one of these fabulous choirs, this fabulous choir, I was like, well, I'll just start one. So I just started it about I think it was 7 years ago. It was the year my mother passed away.
Not good for you.
Not good for you, right? But in a way, it's sort of her spirit passed on. I feel like through that, because she was a public school music teacher, and she inspired a lot of singers, and so that was sort of it's a poignant thing for me that happened that very year, and so where am I?
That's
with this
okay.
conversation?
Sounds like your mother inspired you
yes.
to do that, to start your choir.
I come from it as a voice a performer first, singing opera and oratorio, and then sang a lot of solos with Oratorio Society.
Nice.
When Roger Wilhelm was directing.
My predecessor.
And then teaching voice, and then because of Isabel, my daughter, I started the choir and thought.
You're still teaching voice. You're
I am
still
still,
saying the
yeah.
same thing, but you're saying it to many
Yeah.
people, and they're all hearing it. in
And
a different way.
I teach voice, still teach voice, and then I have private students. I don't refer students until like 14. I want them generally to get past their Annie stage.
Well, and their whole vocal mechanism
Yeah.
has to mature and has to grow to a certain
Yeah.
extent before it's not, doing some damage to them.
And I do have a couple of my students that have come to me for voice lessons
Nice.
to prepare like for NISMA and things like that. So
That's the
been
New York State School
Yes.
Music Association.
Yes. So it's been a nice relationship there.
And now, are they learning to read music also in your ensembles?
Yes, yes. I would like to hope that they play an instrument first, because in the hour and a half of my Hochstein Youth Singers and the extra hour of my Hochstein Singers, we talk about things like this gets a half a beat, and let's sight read through here. But honestly, you need to be an instrumentalist also if you're really going to, as a child, going to be able to sight read music.
It helps to have that physical corollary to.
Yes, of course, we do as much as we can,
Right.
but we don't do enough.
If
get
you
that.
if you plant those seeds when they're little, like the solfege, and with the little kids, we do exercises that sort of incorporate the scale and rhythms, and then we'll put things on the board, and that'll be part of the process. And as my older group, we're reading through an a cappella Vaughan Williams piece,
Oh,
The
my.
Unquiet Grave, which is part of an orchestral piece, but that particular piece is a cappella. And it's amazing. They're doing it. It's not that easy, and they're doing it. So
That's wonderful.
they have learned to read through whatever process. If you do complicated music and not something that's,
They do learn to read by doing.
they learn to read by
Absolutely.
doing, right?
Don't
So
we all?
Right.
Haven't we all?
Right. So we've done music that's, changed meters and different languages and interesting chord clusters. So they are used
That's
to.
how we keep them in our program, because they don't learn that in their beginning choirs,
Right.
most likely.
Yeah.
This is more advanced repertoire, and it's for people who are willing to take just a little bit more time with the rehearsal process.
And when they experience that, when a chord locks, so when they experience that moment when it works, it's like, where?
Yeah.
The other day, my daughter said, "Well, you sang through that key change, and I got chill bumps, Mom."
Wow.
I'm like, that's, and then they
say to them, I've said to my class a couple times, that's a high.
yeah.
That's a high you're feeling there, and they're all like, oh, really? Yeah. But it is. And when they all have it,
Yeah.
you just can't have enough of it.
That's true.
Exactly, it
That's a
becomes
point.
addicting, especially
does.
that treble choir. It's
Yeah.
it's a different sound.
And mostly those things happen in the rehearsals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to notice those moments in the rehearsals. We have this lovely opportunity at Hochstein to perform whenever we want to on the Hochstein Performance Hall stage.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a big deal. That's a lovely part about my retirement job. My retirement job. I don't have to set up the risers, and I don't. And my husband does the sound for me, and I just have this lovely thing I get to do on Saturday.
That's
Be
great.
happy to get up.
That's how I feel. Ours is on Sunday. We rehearse Sunday at 1:00, and the angels are there. Angels and devils. I want more devils. Devils.
Yeah, it's
Bring 'em
hard
on.
to get boys to
Yeah.
do this.
So that's
They
why
have to
I
want to
created the
badly.
devils. That's how I got a couple of guys to join. I said, okay, I will make devils. We have angels. You don't have to be an angel. You could be a devil if you join my choir.
As long as you behave in rehearsal.
And they do this in preference to sports, or in
In
also?
conjunction,
addition.
in
Oh.
addition. And I did have to schedule Sundays because Isabel was in sports. She was in hockey. Isabel's my daughter. She was in hockey, taekwondo, swimming. She's a great swimmer. And so for us to
So you can be a
avoid,
musician and a
Yes.
sports person at
Yeah.
the same time, absolutely.
so
And you
that's
can
why we
also-
scheduled it for Sunday, but they even schedule sports now on Sunday. I was
do.
trying to avoid Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, avoid
Anymore.
sports. And my best memories are of when I grew up was being a part of a choir that was part of the youth church group on Sunday afternoons. So I'm sort of trying to recreate this for myself as well. But it also catches the kids that are in sports or Odyssey of the Mind, or they can.
You can do all those things.
And then
Yeah.
we're close to Wegmans, so you can drop your kids off, have them be a
Go to
choir, go
Wegmans.
to Wegmans, and come back.
Lunchtime, you can sit at one of the benches or the lovely couches and
There's a lounge.
read your book or do your homework online. Yeah.
So it's a quiet,
Dad.
it's parents' own time also.
Yes,
Are
exactly.
there other activities that parents can be involved in? Are they volunteer support roles for?
Absolutely.
Parents.
We'll take you for anything you're interested in. Yeah. I recently took 24 kids to an ACDA festival in Pittsburgh. And they sang in 3 different choirs, and their parents came with them.
So travel
And
is
they
a part of
stayed
it.
at the, well, for these honor choirs, not necessarily for everybody, but yeah. Feel free to come and be would you like to be a chaperone to Danny and Ray? Can they sing there?
That could yet happen. And so do your groups work with other choirs? You mentioned collaboration.
I love collaboration. It's hard to work
We
that
should
out.
collaborate.
We should. The logistics are always interesting.
That's how it is.
Yeah, and then sometimes it just seems overwhelming. So that's why you do need parents to be chaperones. I have them organized to take attendance, and then also being on campus. I have an adult in with the younger kids. If any kid has to go to the restroom, they are escorted to the bathroom by a parent.
Right.
And,
so it's a safe
and
environment.
they wait there for the student, and then they take them back to the choir room. So parents are very important that in a lot of respects that way.
I have an intern from Eastman School of Music. She's a junior, and she worked with us last year, and she works with us, volunteers with us.
Oh my.
But you know what? She's going to be a really great choral conductor when she
It's so exciting.
gets finished.
Building the new generation, both in
Yes,
leadership.
that-
In leadership, and yeah. And that's another thing too, as far as what skills that you talk about. I will, the older singers, at times I will
Help
pair
the
them
younger
up with the
ones.
younger ones,
Absolutely.
and they become leaders. And
That's how we can sing
yeah.
pieces in 4 parts.
Right.
Because we have those high school leaders.
That's
Absolutely.
So really
They
quickly,
get it.
tell us again how to find the Genesee Valley Children's Choir.
GVSings.com.
GVSings.com. And my guest has been Amy Cochrane, their director. And please tell us how to find you.
Hochstein.org.
Hochstein. Thank you, Maryellen Giese, for coming in. And thank you both for being my guests here today in
having
the
us.
Spa Bar.